Is the new 16-inch M3 Pro MacBook Pro actually worth it over the 14-inch model? Well, they both got the same M3 Pro chip, except with the 16-inch, you're forced into upgrading to the 12-core CPU and 18-core GPU, which ends up costing $500 more compared to the base 14-inch model for $2,000 with the binned chip. So before I get into the real-world performance differences, I want to give you guys a good idea of the differences in size, portability, and other things like the speakers and displays. In terms of the actual footprint, you can see just how much bigger the 16-inch model is, which instantly makes it more difficult to fit into a backpack or bag, and even just carrying it in your hands becomes a bit more challenging, especially due to the extra 1.3 pounds of weight up to 4.8 pounds. And on top of that, it's also quite a bit thicker as well, and that's mostly due to the fact that you can get a much bigger battery and a larger cooling system overall, which helps reduce fan noise, as I'll discuss later in the performance section. So in terms of the design and portability, the 14-inch MacBook Pro is the clear choice if you really care about being able to take it with you all the time, and you get the added benefit of saving $500 and choosing whether you want to upgrade to the 12-core M3 Pro variant. As far as the ports and connectivity, they're identical between the two models with the same 3 Thunderbolt 4 ports, HDMI and SD card slot, but one thing that's different is actually the speakers, because the 16-inch model has larger speaker enclosures, so let's do a quick speaker comparison. As you just heard, the 16-inch gets noticeably louder in the mids, as well as having much more bass, so that's an added little bonus for those who love using their laptops to listen to music or watch stuff. The 16-inch also has a much larger trackpad, which can be quite handy, giving you more room for gestures and whatever else, but apart from that, there's really nothing else different design-wise.
Now, as far as the webcams and microphones, they should be identical on both of these, 1080p quality, and they should sound pretty nice as well. But the benefit for the 16-inch model is that the webcam is actually higher because of the display size, so you get a little bit of a higher angle, which does look better, so that's an interesting difference.
And now moving on to the displays, the 16-inch model is noticeably larger, giving you a bit more screen real estate to work with, so it's a bit easier to multitask and split screen, as well as for editing videos, photos, and whatever else. And on top of that, it makes it so much better if you plan to watch movies on your MacBook, or especially gaming with the larger display. This right here is the #1 reason why I personally bought a 16-inch M1 Max model a couple years back, and I love it. But one thing many people don't know is that the resolution is actually quite a lot higher on the 16-inch model, with 3.5K resolution instead of 3K on the 14-inch, so you don't have to sacrifice pixel density. And another difference most people don't think about is that while the camera notch is the same size on both the 14 and 16-inch models, as well as the thickness of the bezels being the same, both the notch and the bezels seem a lot smaller or slimmer due to the larger display, and you can actually fit more apps in the menu bar on the 16-inch as well due to the extra screen width. With that said, let's get into the performance testing. So here are the specs on the screen so you can see the differences once again before we begin. But first, I want to show you guys the perfect external monitor for your MacBook Pro or any Mac you might have, from our sponsor, BenQ. This is their 27-inch 4K 16:9 designer monitor that seamlessly integrates with Macs with just a single USB-C cable that transmits video, audio, and data, while also providing 90 watts of power delivery to keep your MacBook's battery topped up. It's also got excellent cable management with their unique Ergo arm stand, which basically clamps down on the back of your desk, providing a clean desk setup and a ton of adjustability like swivel and height adjustment, pivoting, and tilting. Even better, BenQ's AQ color technology produces the most color accurate images with uniformity tech, so the color and brightness is consistent across the entire monitor, while supporting 95% P3 color gamut and out-of-the-box color accuracy of less than 3 delta E. So order today to get a 10% discount on BenQ's PD2706UA Ergo Arm monitor by clicking the link in the description and pinned comment below with the coupon code TECHPD10. Starting off with performance in Geekbench 6, the single-core performance is just slightly faster on the upgraded M3 Pro chip, which makes sense since the cores themselves are the same. But in multi-core, the upgraded chip is giving us 14.4% more performance for 25% more cache, which isn't really worth it on the 16-inch model, but keep in mind that you can upgrade the chip on the 14-inch for $300 by itself, so that becomes only 15% more cache, so it's actually a decent upgrade so far. We also tested the 10-minute stress test in the new Cinebench 2024, and the 16-inch model scored around 16.8% faster, likely because of the better cooling system with larger fans and the larger chassis for better heat dissipation. Moving over to graphics performance in Geekbench 6, we're looking at 14% faster, but then in 3D Mark's Wildlife Extreme Gaming test, the upgraded M3 Pro is getting 20% more FPS, which is actually a killer upgrade for gamers. Now, we also tested web design performance in Figma using a test project provided to us by 500 Designs, one of the best design studios in California. We exported 12 layers and the upgraded M3 Pro finished just 1 second faster, so there's no point at all to upgrade the chip for web design. We then tested music production in Logic Pro, and the 16-inch model was able to play 22% more tracks at the same time without overloading, which is actually a pretty great upgrade if you have that type of workload. Now, moving on to programming performance in the Xcode 15 benchmark, the base 14-inch MacBook Pro only took 10 seconds longer to complete this real-world task, which honestly tells me it's not worth upgrading for this type of work since it's barely any faster. And then I tested real-world photo editing using Lightroom Classic to export 50 raw 42 megapixel images, and they ended up finishing in exactly the same time, 45 seconds. Once again, there's no reason at all to upgrade for this type of work that uses the GPU to export photos. So then I tested 3D rendering in Blender 4.0 beta, which now supports ray tracing. And the upgraded M3 Pro chip was only 2.5 seconds faster, which was actually a bit mind-blowing, but then it makes sense because the ray tracing cores themselves are identical on both machines, and that's what the limitation is in this test. So for 3D rendering, there's absolutely no reason to upgrade to the better M3 Pro chip. And now moving on to video editing, I exported a 5-minute 4K project which uses the most common format that people record in and edit these days, which is HEVC or H.265. And lo and behold, they both finished in exactly 2 minutes and 20 seconds, which is the speed of the HEVC encoders, which once again is identical on both of these machines. So for most people who edit video, no difference at all. And finally, I tested something that isn't limited by the encoders and is probably the toughest video codec out there right now, Canon R5 8K raw footage, which maxes out both the CPU and the GPU at the same time. The 16-inch model with the upgraded M3 Pro finished exactly 1 minute faster, which is a decent upgrade, but the bigger difference was the fan noise. The 14-inch was almost maxing out the fans by the end of the test, averaging at 6,234 RPM, compared to the 16-inch, which was a lot quieter at only an average of 3,168 RPM. So that was a huge benefit of the larger 16-inch size with the better cooling system. So with all of that said and tested, is it worth upgrading from the base M3 Pro chip up to the upgraded version, which comes on the 16-inch MacBook Pro? Well, in my opinion, there are only a couple of reasons to do so. And honestly, all of those reasons have to do with the 16-inch chassis itself and not the upgraded chip, because looking at performance, it's not really worth the extra money just for the performance. But with the 16-inch chassis, you get the larger display, the larger trackpad, the better battery life, the better cooling system for less fan noise, the better speakers. Basically, all of the awesome benefits come with the larger size and not the chip upgrade. So if you're choosing just the 14-inch MacBook Pro, don't upgrade the chip. Just keep it the base $2,000 model and spend your money somewhere else, because the chip difference was not good enough in my opinion. So the only reason you should be buying the upgraded M3 Pro chip with 12 CPU cores and 18 GPU cores is if you're just getting the 16-inch, which already comes with it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, subscribe above and check out one of those two videos right over there. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.